1 million years ago. A war so devastating erupted across the galaxy that entire star systems vanished without leaving behind a single planet. Civilizations that had ruled the stars for millions of years disappeared almost overnight. When the war finally ended, one enormous warship simply vanished. No distress signal, no wreckage, no survivors. Eventually, every surviving civilization reached the same conclusion. The greatest starship ever built had finally been destroyed. They were wrong 200,000 years later. Aria Kelleher had less than 10 minutes to live. A jagged piece of ancient metal had ripped through her oxygen tank the moment she entered the abandoned structure. Inside her helmet, a cold, computerized voice repeated the same warning over and over. Oxygen remaining, 9 minutes, 58 seconds. She cursed under her breath and sprinted toward the entrance she had just come through. If she could reach her shuttle, she might still survive, but before she reached the exit, the entire corridor shook. A deep metallic sound echoed somewhere beneath her feet. It wasn't an explosion. It sounded more like a heartbeat. Aria froze. The vibration came again, stronger this time. Dust drifted from the ceiling as ancient machinery groaned somewhere deep inside the darkness. That was impossible. According to every survey ever conducted, this planet had been completely lifeless for over 200,000 years. Nothing should have been moving, especially not something this enormous. Then, lights began turning on, not all at once, one after another. A thin blue glow stretched across the endless corridor, disappearing into the darkness ahead. It looked less like emergency lighting and more like a path leading somewhere. Aria backed away slowly. "This place is still alive." The words barely left her mouth before another violent tremor rippled through the floor. This time, the blast door behind her slammed shut. The deafening impact echoed through the massive structure. She spun around and hit the emergency release. Nothing happened. She tried again, still nothing. The ancient door hadn't simply locked, it had sealed itself. Her breathing became faster. The oxygen timer continued counting down. 9 minutes, 23 seconds, for the first time since landing on the dead planet. Fear replaced curiosity. Whatever this place was, it didn't want her to leave. Trying to stay calm, Aria activated her scanner. Maybe there was another exit. Maybe she could find a maintenance tunnel. Instead, the scanner displayed something it had never shown before. Not a map, not a life sign, not an energy reading, just 2 words. Captain detected. Aria frowned. The scanner glitched occasionally, but never like this. She restarted it. The message remained. Then another line slowly appeared beneath it. Authorization accepted. Her blood ran cold. "There has to be some mistake," she whispered. She had never seen this ship before. She wasn't a captain. She wasn't even military. She was nothing more than a scavenger desperately searching for enough scrap metal to survive another month. So why? Did the ship already know who she was? Before she could think any further, every light inside the corridor suddenly turned bright white. Ancient engines roared somewhere beneath the planet's surface. The walls began vibrating. Massive systems that should have turned into dust hundreds of thousands of years ago were waking up. Then a voice echoed throughout the endless corridor. Calm, ancient, almost relieved. "After 217,000 years." A long silence followed. Then it spoke again. "My captain has finally returned." Aria's heart nearly stopped, because at that exact moment, she realized something terrifying. She hadn't discovered an abandoned starship. The starship had been waiting for her for several long seconds. The corridor remained completely silent. Aria couldn't move. Her mind refused to accept what she had just heard. The ancient voice had called her, "Captain." Then, the floor beneath her feet began glowing. Thin blue lines spread across the metallic surface like rivers of light, racing through the endless corridor before disappearing into the darkness ahead. They weren't random. They were guiding her. "No!" Aria whispered as she slowly backed away. "I'm leaving." She turned toward the sealed blast door once more and pounded on it with both fists. Nothing, not even the slightest movement. It was as if the ship had erased the exit from existence. Behind her, the voice spoke again. "Command authorization incomplete. Please proceed to the core chamber." Aria clenched her fists. I don't know who you think I am." The ship didn't answer. Instead, the glowing pathway became brighter, almost impatient. She looked at the oxygen timer inside her helmet. 7 minutes, 41 seconds. Standing still meant dying. Following the lights might also mean dying. But at least one choice moved forward. Taking a deep breath, she stepped onto the glowing path. Instantly, the lights ahead awakened one after another. Entire sections of the gigantic vessel slowly came back to life. Doors that hadn't opened for hundreds of thousands of years slid apart with deafening groans. Massive reactors somewhere beneath the ship began humming louder. It felt as though the vessel was breathing again. The farther she walked, the more impossible everything became. She passed rows of colossal windows nearly 50 meters tall. Beyond them, she expected to see empty space. Instead, she saw solid rock. An entire planet surrounded the ship. The realization sent chills through her body. The starship hadn't crashed. The planet had formed around it. Over hundreds of thousands of years, dust became mountains. Mountains became continents, and an entire dead world had unknowingly buried the greatest warship ever created. No wonder nobody had found it. It had been hiding beneath a planet all along. Then, her scanner suddenly screamed. This time it wasn't detecting energy, it was detecting movement. One signal directly ahead. Aria stopped walking. Every instinct told her to turn around, slowly. She raised her flashlight toward the darkness. At first, she saw nothing. Then 2 tiny blue lights opened. Eyes watching her. Her heart nearly stopped. The figure slowly stepped into the light. It stood over 3 meters tall. Its silver armor was covered in dust so old it had become part of the metal itself. An enormous weapon rested motionless in its hands. For a terrifying second, neither of them moved. Then the giant machine lowered its weapon and knelt. Its mechanical voice echoed through the chamber. "Guardian Unit 7. A pause. Welcomes the captain." Aria stared in complete disbelief. Whatever this thing was, it believed she commanded it. Before she could react, dozens of blue lights suddenly appeared throughout the darkness. Then hundreds, one after another. Ancient machines emerged from the shadows, an entire army. Every single one of them slowly lowered their weapons and knelt before her. Aria's breathing became unsteady. This wasn't an abandoned ship. It wasn't even empty. It had been guarded all this time. Waiting for someone they believed would eventually return. Then the ship spoke once more, but this time its voice sounded different, less mechanical, almost worried. "Warning! Unknown vessels have entered the system." The words echoed through every corridor. A holographic star map suddenly appeared above the army. Dozens of red symbols blinked at the edge of the system. Then, dozens became hundreds, hundreds became thousands. They were moving toward the planet. Fast! The ship's next sentence made Aria's blood run cold. "The enemy has found us." The glowing star map hovered silently above the chamber. Thousands of red signals were racing toward Ithia 12. Aria looked from the map to the army of silent machines surrounding her. "They're coming here." The ancient voice answered immediately. "Affirmative. Estimated arrival, 4 minutes." Aria stared at the display. "No, that's impossible. If this war ended hundreds of thousands of years ago, then who are they?" For the first time, the ship hesitated. Its answer came slowly, almost reluctantly. "The war never ended." Those 4 words sent a chill through the entire chamber. The hologram suddenly expanded. Entire galaxies appeared before her eyes. Then countless stars began disappearing, one after another. Not exploding, not collapsing, simply gone, as if something had erased them from existence. The ship continued. "While your civilizations were rising, they were hunting." Another section of the map illuminated. Thousands of worlds flashed red. Each one vanished seconds later. The pattern continued across the galaxy like a spreading disease. "They don't conquer planets," the ship said quietly. "They consume civilizations." Aria could barely breathe. Humanity believed it ruled a thriving galaxy, but according to the ship, most of the galaxy was already dead. No one had realized it. because the enemy erased every civilization before anyone could receive their distress calls. An entire million-year genocide hidden by the unimaginable distances of space. The room fell silent. Then another warning echoed through the ship. Outer defense, satellites destroyed. Aria looked up sharply. You still have defenses? I did. The last word carried something almost human. Sadness. The holographic display shifted again. Ancient orbital weapons surrounding the planet blinked out one after another. Each had survived for over 200,000 years. Each was destroyed in seconds. The enemy wasn't just powerful. It knew exactly where every defense system was located, almost as if it had done this before. Then Aria noticed something strange. One red symbol was moving differently from all the others. It wasn't approaching with the fleet. It had already reached orbit. What's that ship? Silence. Then every light inside the chamber dimmed. The AI's voice became colder than before. That is not a ship. The hologram zoomed closer. Aria expected to see a massive battleship. Instead, she saw something that looked alive. A black structure larger than a city slowly twisted through space. Its surface constantly changed shape as though it were breathing. No engines, no weapons, no visible crew. It simply drifted silently above the planet, watching. What is it? The answer came immediately. It is the Harvester. The last thing every extinct civilization ever saw. Suddenly, every machine soldier in the chamber stood up at once, weapons locked into firing position. Blue eyes burned brighter than ever before. The entire ship began shaking violently. Warning sirens echoed through every corridor. Then, the impossible happened. The planet itself started cracking. Massive fractures spread across the rocky surface above them. Mountains collapsed. Entire valleys split apart. Aria lost her balance as another earthquake threw her against the wall. What is happening? The AI answered calmly. The enemy knows where we are. Another explosion shook the ship. Pieces of rock rained past the giant observation windows. Then, sunlight flooded into the corridor. Aria looked upward. The sky was opening. The buried warship was forcing its way out. Not because it wanted to, because it had no choice. The dead planet that had hidden it for 200,000 years was breaking apart around it. The ship had remained asleep for centuries to avoid being discovered. Now, its hiding place no longer existed. The AI spoke one final sentence, one that made Aria realize how hopeless their situation truly was. Captain, we are not preparing for battle. A long pause followed. We are preparing for extinction. The ancient warship erupted from the dying planet. Continents shattered beneath its enormous hull. Mountains that had hidden it for over 200,000 years collapsed into oceans of molten rock. For the first time in ages, the legendary vessel returned to the stars, and waiting for it was an entire fleet. The darkness above Ithiaminus 12 was no longer filled with stars. It was filled with enemy ships. Thousands of them, perfectly motionless, as though they had been waiting for this exact moment. Aria stood speechless before the enormous observation window. Every instinct told her to run, but there was nowhere left to run. The ship's calm voice echoed through the bridge. Enemy fleet has established complete orbital containment. Escape probability. The AI paused. 0%. For several seconds, nobody spoke. Then Aria finally broke the silence. If we can't escape, then why wake up at all? The answer came immediately. Because you awakened me. Aria frowned. I didn't. I just walked inside. The bridge became silent once again. Then thousands of tiny lights appeared across the enormous holographic display. Each represented a single year. They stretched backward, 217,000 years, one light. For every year the ship had waited. I was never programmed to awaken by proximity. The AI explained. I was programmed to awaken only when my captain returned. Aria slowly shook her head. That's impossible. I've never been here before. The AI didn't argue. Instead, another hologram appeared. This one showed a human face. A woman wearing armor unlike anything ever built by humanity. She stood on the bridge of this very ship, calm, determined, her eyes fixed on something beyond the stars. Aria's breathing stopped because she wasn't looking at a stranger. She was looking at herself. Every feature was identical. The same eyes, the same scar above her eyebrow, even the same expression. "No!" Aria whispered. "That can't be me." The recording began playing. The woman smiled faintly. Then she spoke. "If you're seeing this, then my plan worked." Aria's heart pounded. "I knew I couldn't defeat them. So I gave the galaxy one final chance. I erased every record of our civilization. I buried this ship beneath a lifeless world. And I placed my own genetic code into the future. I knew one day someone carrying my memories would return." The recording ended. The bridge fell silent. Aria couldn't think. Everything she believed about herself, everything she believed about history, had just collapsed. She wasn't chosen by chance. She was the final piece of a plan created over 200,000 years ago. Before she could speak, every alarm inside the ship suddenly screamed. The black structure hovering above the planet began changing shape. Its surface unfolded like an endless mechanical flower. Then, space itself distorted around it. The stars disappeared. Light bent inward. The AI spoke only 4 words. "The harvester is feeding." A beam of absolute darkness descended toward the planet. Not light, the absence of light. Wherever it touched, matter simply ceased to exist. Entire mountain ranges vanished without an explosion, without fire, without debris. They were simply gone. The AI calculated the impact in real time. Planetary destruction. 89 seconds. Aria stared at the countdown. Then she looked back at the recording. The woman who looked exactly like her had sacrificed everything to give the future one chance. Only one. She took a slow breath. "What happens if we destroy the harvester?" The AI answered quietly. "We survive. And if we fail?" A brief silence followed. Then, "So does every remaining civilization." Aria looked through the enormous window one last time. The enemy fleet stretched across the darkness like an endless wall. Impossible odds, impossible choices. She smiled anyway, not because she believed they would win, because for the first time in over 200,000 years, someone was finally willing to fight. Then, let's give them something they weren't expecting. The engines of the ancient warship roared with enough force to shake space itself. Its colossal weapons slowly rotated toward the enemy. Across the galaxy, countless forgotten defense beacons suddenly awakened. One after another, ancient signals began broadcasting into the darkness. A single message, the same message that had not been heard for over 200,000 years. "The last captain has returned." And somewhere, far beyond the edge of known space, thousands of silent lights suddenly came back to life.